And we're live again, waiting for people to trickle in. Welcome everyone who's here already, which right now is no one. Oh no, now there's 2 people. Welcome back everyone to this live stream. We are going to get into some, well, celebrity gossip and the dark side of that gossip that the gutter press didn't really want to get into. That's the context we're going to attempt to provide today. Because I was totally naive. I did not know how widespread the phenomenon was of major female celebrities going to strip clubs. And we'll also, at the end, talk about one example of a woman using escort prostitution. But apparently, yeah, it's a huge deal. And Sybil Joe's here with me to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm maybe not as surprised as you are, Elly. I think like we were talking about before we went live, it's a sign of the times. It's the cultural story that we're living through, and of course, celebrities are their role in society is to play out what's going on culturally. So I'm really interested to get into these examples that you've so diligently compiled. I appreciate the work that you do on this. You do so much research and pulling these outlines together so that we can connect the dots, and see how these kind of, like you said, the press will cover it as these isolated incidents, but then when you start to connect the dots, you see a pattern.
Yeah, and I have some early theories of what's going on. I know you have a lot of thoughts. I just want to give the brief disclaimer that I'm not a celebrity gossip hawk and I might be missing context. I do not necessarily know everyone's life story, or when I was reading last couple of days, the absolute reliability of the sources. So take it just with a bit of a grain of salt. But I did, try to do my best to find a source for like every larger claim that we're going to be making about people. But if anyone listening to this is a super fan of any of the women we're going to mention, please do feel free to give us additional context. And if anything we say makes you furious because we went after somebody you admire, you can leave an angry comment. Any comment helps the algorithm, but I'd rather talk productively. And this is, we're going to get into this. Is not necessarily even about each of that woman being condemned to a horrible person forever and ever, irredeemable, or the worst thing to ever happen to a woman in a strip club. But it still has ripple effects. It's a product, it's cause and consequence of the normalization of strip clubs, which we on the show absolutely hold are part of the sexual exploitation industrial complex. They are a side of trafficking. They are a side of organized crime, money laundering, drug sales, and even taking these things aside, just we don't have an episode on it yet, but it's in the works. Just the experience of having to be barely clothed or nude in front of strangers, and then, as we'll get into, even these female celebrities often touching your body, throwing money at you. That's not harmless. We're at this cultural moment where that feels, because we are so desensitized, I think a lot of people are like, whatever. I mean, this is, there's hardcore porn out there. Who cares? A lot of these women end up, we'll get into some women who did make a career somewhat as a consequence of making money through a strip club. But yeah, we're going to get into how it's really not harmless and how even these celebrity cases show it's really not. So
those are some great points, Elly. And yeah, the idea of strip clubs as harmless, I feel like there's something about strip clubs that is really pivotal. It's a load-bearing structure toward the cultural orientation towards prostitution and sexual exploitation, because it's this realm of plausible deniability where young people, barely clothed, dancing, having fun, drinking, partying, tale as old as time, that's what young people like to do, versus what could or could not be happening in the couch room or on the dance floor or behind those doors. And it kind of gives the culture this like I said, plausible deniability, this Schrodinger stripper, if you will, like um where they could straddle both sides, if that makes sense. The kind of more sanitized version, but still have one foot in the darker, the shadow realms of what's really going on in there.
And I should say, strip clubs are not universally acknowledged as a form of sexual exploitation, even in countries that acknowledge that prostitution that increasingly acknowledge that porn is. They usually still have legal strip clubs. I probably have mentioned that somewhere else before. The only country in the world that I know to ban strip clubs, not for religious reasons, not an actual fear of female bodies or sexuality or whatever, not purity reasons, but for to protect women from being objectified and trafficked through them, is Iceland. So the women in Iceland, I would love to, I didn't do that research. This is not a comprehensive review of everything strip clubs, but they realized it doesn't make any sense to close down the brothels and not go after the strip clubs because of the mentality that both the things that happen in them and the mentality that it produces mostly in men. And the ideas and feelings that they go out with once they've had a night at a strip club. And it shouldn't really be mysterious. What kind of mindset I mean when I say that. So.
But the waters do stay muddied, don't they? I think in one of our examples, there was a situation which it was a burlesque club, right? Where do we draw? What's the line? And this is always the cultural conversation of what is art and performance versus what is pornography and exploitation. And we like to stay in that muddy gray area because it's somehow more comfortable than looking at the stark realities.
And I want to make this disclaimer, like I do know that pole dancing, one, can be a sport. It doesn't have to include objectification. It takes intense work. I'm sure most people, including myself, would look absolutely ridiculous trying that. I'm not diminishing that takes skill and practice and that it could be an art form. In fact, I hope down the line that we will do an episode about that. And I think it comes historically from the circus. And I know the circus has its dark sides, but it definitely also has its artistic merit. So it's not to dispute that. But we'll for sure go into some of the where I think I talked about this with Esther in our guest from Nordic Model Now in our episode on the downward spiral or the sort of the worsening of the sex industry. She talked about how nobody wants to be called a prostitute. So you look for any other kind of word. And the same, you see women are saying, I'm a burlesque dancer. I'm not a stripper. I'm a go-go dancer. I'm not a stripper. Anything to not use the term that just remains eternally stigmatized. But maybe I should go into our first example now at this stage. So what sparked this topic for me, what kind of woke me up out of my naivete, is actually a female singer that I'm a fan of, and now I'm less of a fan. I mean, music's still great, but I don't know. And I don't I expect celebrities to be my role model in everything they do in life. They are people, and I don't, necessarily care. The point where I start caring is where they start to objectify or possibly hurt somebody else, or normalize that objectification elsewhere. And the person I am talking about is Chappell Roan. As she's one of the biggest pop artists right now. She's an incredibly talented young woman who, on top of making amazing music, is very outspoken about being a lesbian. That I've heard some mixed reactions to her from the lesbian community. Some people really like her. They're so happy to have a representation. She makes a lot of like love songs and desire songs about women, which, I mean, I think they're fun, both musically and lyrically. And she's, but other people take some issue with her. Some people feel like she's sometimes kind of self-objectifying. That might be a debate for another time. But just to say, I've heard these like mixed reactions from the lesbian community about her. But then what I found out very recently is because she posted about it on her own Instagram, she's apparently celebrated her last 3 birthdays in a strip club or several strip clubs. And most recently in 2025, that was a party held at Jumbo's Clown Room, which is a well-known burlesque slash strip club in LA. And as far as I know, some of her fans on Reddit were defending it, saying, "Yeah, but the women don't take their clothes off." Yeah, but I saw the images, and you see her getting lap dances. You see her throwing money at women. On another birthday, I don't know if it was this one or a recent one or 1 or 2 years ago, there was a stripper-shaped pinata that obviously what people did, what people do with pinatas, which is beat them. And there's a photo of Chappell holding the head of the stripper pinata. And
That part freaked me out. That
I,
image was
right,
weird. That was weird.
the vibes are very off for us. So her fans love it. They call it sex positive. They say, look, she's a lesbian. She likes being around scantily clad women. This is just her fun time. And I don't know. I've not seen terribly many people say anything about this, but I was really disappointed. I didn't, I don't think of any celebrity as my feminist icon, but it's harder to enjoy somebody's music when this is how they like to spend their birthdays. And I felt really, really alienated. Like, yeah, this is an existence on another planet. And I'm not just talking about how celebrities kind of exist on another planet anyway, seemingly. But I don't know. I love costumes. I love color. I love music. I love dance. There's so many aspects of this that are great, but why stripping? Why the pinata? I'm a bit lost about that.
I really think the pinata is a big clue. And when you sent me this example and I went down, read some articles, and I saw those pictures, and I was obviously I don't know any celebrities, but I was brought back to this dynamic of when I was working in strip clubs of, kind of middle class or upper class, artsy, avant-garde kind of girls being really interested in and really invested in this romantic notion of burlesque and modern day burlesque and strip clubs as being, this outgrowth of artistic expression and female, um it's not exactly empowerment, but some sort of female cultural symbol, I guess. um and I always kind of had some contempt for those girls or women, young women. I don't know, we were girls, we were so young, but girls in my social group who were tourists, and they would ask me, they would want all the details about what I had experienced. And so that's very much the vibe that I got from her. And I think the piñata kind of it gives it away, that this is about objectification. This is about um owning something. It's almost like a culture vulture kind of vibe that I get from this kind of woman who wants to soak up some kind of cultural credibility, like, but ultimately she wants to own it, and she uses the women who are actually involved to give herself that identity. I don't know.
I mean, again, she got lap dances from barely clothed women. She posted really objectifying photos. Um, I got backlash for tweeting about this, but I was like, just look at the photos. And if you cannot see the objectification, that's because you're incredibly desensitized. And I have a lot of different thoughts. I'm trying to pick one. I should give some additional context. One of Chappell Roan's most famous songs, and my favorite of hers, is Pink Pony Club. And this is in part. Oh, do you know the song?
Yeah, I love that song. They play it at my work all the time.
It's
So
beautiful, right? I love this song. And it's, I guess, at least in part about her moving to California, getting into the music scene, getting into gay bars. There's this one line that's about drag queens. So I always thought it was about, you know, being married to the music, coming into yourself as an artist in a new place. And your mom's a bit worried, but actually you're really happy on stage. And but Chappell Roan herself has said it is also inspired a little bit by the fantasy of herself as a go-go girl, which is, I think we mentioned the term before, another one of these, not really a stripper, but kind of. And when I looked up go-go girls, the Wikipedia image for that is a woman in a bikini in a cage. And according to Wikipedia, that cage thing that's changed a bit. So go-go dancer is supposed to motivate people at a club to get into the mood, which I guess principally is not a terrible job. It doesn't have to be, I guess. But according to Wikipedia, the practice of bikinis and cages has declined, but I would be skeptical that in this culture that it actually has, and I don't think it cited a study or anything. And like even Wikipedia has to justify the practice and be like, oh, it's not that bad because sometimes they wear normal outfits. And the other part is Chappell Roan imagining herself as a go, and she said, but I don't have the courage to be a go-go girl. I didn't have the courage. I didn't go through with it. So like you said, really like just tourist. She didn't actually do it. And then I thought about myself at like 16, 17. I had a really stupid idea that I could become a bar hostess in Japan. But I was a teenager who knew nothing. And then I did my research and I found out what an abusive, horrible industry that is. And that was kind of part of my feminist awakening. And I moved on. And it's like, you make art about this, but you're not going to research. You're just going to vibe. So I don't know.
that's what you just said about I'm not brave enough. I heard that so many times. Like I was kind of an out and proud, sex positive third wave. So in my social groups, and I heard that so many times. Like, oh, I'm just could never. But like we're always talking about this idea that as a woman that is something that would be awful. But
Yeah.
you think that there's a certain kind of woman that's different than you who can take it, who it's okay. And this really, really deeply ingrained. And these women are acting like, I thought a lot of these women were my friends. And then when I needed friends, it turned out that I was a prop. I was really a prop in their life. And like I said, that piñata is such a perfect, it's a prop.
And I mean, we have a ton of other examples to go over that some of it is going to repeat what we just said about Chappell Roan, but some of it might bring in some new thoughts as well. So I'm just gonna give another one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, carry on.
So another one is there's really so many. I think I only have a fraction. So Kim Kardashian is another person that has some connection to strip clubs, actually less than some of the other people on our list. She's often assumed to be an ex-stripper, but there's no evidence that she ever was. And I think most people who have heard of her may know that she got famous because a porn production company stole a sex tape of her and her then partner and distributed it as a regular porn film. And she actually sued them and won $5 million in damages. But that's never left the public perception of her as an unwilling porn star in quotation marks. And it's people have said, oh, she published it or her mom published it, but those are, I mean, that's a whole other thing. Should women then Paris Hilton is another example. Should women, oh, maybe this is too big for this live stream. To what extent are women like reclaiming or making lemonade out of lemons when this stuff happens to them? We will get into that again because some of the women who came from strip clubs made it into hip hop and then were very successful. So like maybe we'll return to that part. So there's so many moving pieces here. But just to finish the part about Kim Kardashian, she, as far as I know, is not a frequenter of strip clubs, but she's kind of caught onto this trend of celebrating your birthday at a strip club, which is so alien to me as a woman. It's so massively alien. At the Crazy Horse strip club in 2025. This is a famous erotic cabaret venue in Paris known for stylized nude dance performances. And I don't have any detailed information, but just to emphasize again, so why can't you just say, I went to the strip club? No, you went to the artistic erotic cabaret. Okay. I'm really not very impressed by that. And we know people even in, even some high level professional dancers in ballet, terrible history of abuse. Gymnastics has some dance aspects, terrible history of abuse. This, like, I'm not saying it is prostitution, but I'm saying there's something about this is hard because I do want a world where women can dance and even dance suggestively and be safe and respected. But this is not that world. And so even if you're in the upper echelons, how do you say that?
Echelons,
you have a certain level of, it has a certain level of risk. So
yeah, because and like you were saying about the go-go dancers, and I was kind of holding off until we get down the road and talking about women making their careers after being in strip clubs. The again, that muddy water, that kind of gray area of, I hate to be vulgar, but at what point does she become a whore? And we have this differentiation again in our minds of, there are women who could never, and then there are whores who you could, and the closer you can play to that line, because you get male validation, you get cool girl points for playing close to that line without going, nobody wants to go over the line, but they want to be as in proximity to it as they can, because you get rewarded for that.
That is pop music for the last 30 years.
Exactly. Like, what's the difference between a stripper and a music video dancer as far as what is actually happening?
I was 13 years old and kind of clocking that Pussycat Dolls, or what they put Britney Spears through, was stripping.
Yes.
And a lot of those women have since actually told us that it was traumatizing and that they were exploited and they were being sexually harassed and sectioned and abused behind closed doors. But when I first clocked that, literally at 13, I was very alone in that perception. And so I was kind of like the crazy rambly kid that was like, oh, do you realize like their managers make him do that? And that took me a couple more years to like really get the feminist analysis, because we've just acquiesced to our culture sliding into this. Like, I really think most people look at these photos that these women post on Instagram about their birthday parties, and they're just like, yeah, whatever, scroll on. It doesn't even register. I really think that's where we're at. And I mean, I can give another example. This is a long list. Oh yeah.
I love that you brought up Britney. Huge Britney Spears fan, and I can't believe that you clocked that at 13. I think probably around that same time, I was probably dancing to her songs in the strip club, and kind of her music brings me back to that. And I also did see and feel and understand the connection, but I couldn't extrapolate from the wrongness of it. It was, whereas I saw, oh, well, this is normal. These are the same things, and therefore it's okay. Whereas you saw, these are the same things, and therefore.
I shouldn't say I didn't have a period of confusion. I should say I did have a period where I was imitating those dance moves as a barely pubescent girl, because everyone was.
Because everyone was. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I knew
absolutely.
the purpose is to titillate an adult man. I was
Yes.
aware that is the purpose. This is not like cool girl dance. This is sexually titillating the adult man. And I
Yeah.
shouldn't have to think about that at 12.
Yeah, and we were trained into it. I was practicing. I thought about becoming a stripper by the time I was 15. And like you said, I had been taught through the culture. And I think Britney Spears is such a great example because, yeah, what she was doing was on the national stage performing strip club performances at such a young age. And I've so many times I've said, to me, celebrity culture is like modern day human sacrifice. You know, we sit here, especially younger I hate child celebrity. I hate the idea of taking a child and putting them in this social position where everybody is looking at them. It's absolutely destructive. And we sit here and we watch the destruction on the world stage. We know, and you know, it's good in a way because we're able to analyze it like we're doing here and pick it apart and see how this is happening in our own lives. Um, but yeah, Brittany is a great example of how we watched in real time her just be destroyed and pulled apart.
Actually, let's do a whole episode about Britney at some point. Like, she
Yeah.
deserves an entire episode to herself, really. And I should say some of the women we'll be talking about have been put through the ringer by the public and by paparazzis. They are victims of this culture, but they also perpetuate it at the same time. It's tricky. So,
Yeah, and we're always talking about that victim perpetrator overlap and how complicated it is. And the general public doesn't want to get into the complications. They want it to be neat and clean, good victims, bad perpetrators. But in real life, the way that these institutions mingle people together, it's bad stuff comes out.
and I just
And we
want to
have
say,
to get
oh,
into
sorry.
that. Yeah, no, say.
I want to say thank you to the chat. There's so many comments coming in. I can't always read them out. Some of the stuff that people are bringing up, we will get into. We're definitely going to talk about Lily Allen. I kind of saved that one for last. Beatrix is also letting us know that Laura Prepin talked about going to strip clubs to get lap dances for her birthday. Yeah, you could. There's so many. Back in the 2000s. Okay, so this trend is not new. Yeah, okay. I mean, somebody needs to do like a proper anthropological study on this. I should say I was looking at some research, some papers on women using strip clubs. I didn't have time to read the long papers. So and if just a quick ad break, if anyone listening to this would like us to be able to take more time to research for these live streams, like, we are experts on sexual exploitation, but we don't always have all the detailed information on every story we talk about, because sometimes we only have a couple of days to prepare. If you in the future want us to be able to get more prepared, please do consider donating. You can go to our website and give us a one-time donation or a monthly donation to hopefully enable us one day to just take maybe a day out of our week to like really properly get into this and give you even more high quality information on all these things going on.
And if you can't donate, comment, share. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook.
Yes.
Where else are we? I don't know where we are.
Instagram. And you can, if you don't have
Tell
anything,
the algorithm.
Yes.
Yes, go.
We are bad at these ad breaks. I hate doing them. If you can leave a comment on the video on any platform, you can literally just leave us a heart, a flame, an exclamation mark. You can even leave us hate. Anything will help. Because it's hard for us to break through the algorithm because of the topics that we talk about. The algorithm goes, you talk about rape, you talk about porn, this is not getting out. Aside from the fact that some of our views are not popular in certain circles, so we don't get any big official sponsors. It's like big feminist organizations are full of sex workers' work. They will not back us. Big religious organizations do not want us to do religious critique. We've done an episode on Islam. We have one coming out about clergy abuse. So they got reasons not to fund us. So it's kind of, we're in this impossible situation where nobody will fund us. or very
Okay,
very few people.
because there are Johns in every stratosphere of the social and political world,
Yeah.
and they are protected.
Okay, I'm gonna go into the next example. So the next one is Gabrielle Union. I actually have no idea who that is, but apparently she's famous. Her example is kind of a woman imitating a man's midlife crises. So she frequents strip clubs to the extent that she's bragged about being a connoisseur. She says she will spend up to 25K on booze and to take care of the dancers who are very welcoming. Okay, 25K, that's her bragging about her wealth. Why isn't she not, I don't know, spending that on, I don't know, somewhere else? Why does it have to be the strip club? But she does this almost monthly. She's 48 years old at the time of giving that particular interview. And she's also been to strip clubs with her husband, who's an NBA player, and with his playmates. So this is not girls, women among themselves going to the strip club. This is women going with men. But she's so into it now, she goes alone or with her friends. Can you imagine doing that at 48?
At 48, no, certainly not. But as I was reading about this, I kind of do understand. It's weird because I don't understand how it made sense to me, but I do understand that it did make sense to me. When I was in my 20s and I was making a lot of money. By this time, I had moved out of the strip club and into quote unquote high end escorting. And, I had more money than I knew what to do with. And I would take my friends out, and yeah, we would go to strip clubs. That would be like a fun, chill place to hang out. We would hang out with the dancers, strippers. I don't know. We all kind of considered ourselves part
Peers.
of the same peers. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And and women in the sex industry know how to party, know how to have fun. It's and but me and my friends, we'd only go when we knew we had enough money to like make those girls' night. And I think we talked about this before we started. Like, yeah, as a woman in that situation, you would much rather see a group of celebrities just trying to hang out and throw their money around than, the guy who comes every Tuesday and sits in the corner and smokes a cigar and picks one girl. It,
Yeah, of course.
and so again, that blurred line between, well, am I being an exploiter or am I trying to share my wealth, pass it around? And those lines stay blurry.
Can I ask?
And yeah.
Sorry. When you did that, well, two things. First, I'm reminded of a documentary about hostess clubs, which is, places where people are paid to drink and flirt, and it does often turn into
Mhm.
prostitution. A lot of female hostesses go to the male host clubs. So they are this we need to do an entire episode. There's a lot going on there. And then sometimes those men end up getting the women addicted and then they traffic them. There's so much going on. But being part of an industry and then becoming a consumer, that's when I clocked that this is like an almost self-feeding industry in part.
Mhm.
But the direct question I wanted to pose to you is, because this is what I'm seeing with the celebrities. This is, yeah, Beatrix is mentioning the name of the documentary, The Great Happiness Space. Everyone should watch the documentary. This is absolutely excellent. And I have two people in mind, experts on this topic, that I'm going to try and bring on our regular episodes. But the direct question I wanted to pose to you is, did you, is if that's an okay question, how far you went in directly interacting with the women? Because it's one thing to leave money on the table. It's another to throw it at a person. It's another to put it in their underwear. It's yet another to touch them or get a lap dance.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So we would, so it's, there's the lap dance at the table. There's the stage dance. So you go up to the stage to tip and she'll come down and maybe like put her breasts in your face and, get really close. And then there's the couch room which is like the proper sit and grind kind of lap dance. And me and my friends, we would go to the stage and we'd probably put money in their G-string or in their garter, whatever they had. And also, oh, that's it. See, I always thought of it as work. I wasn't getting any sexual gratification. I didn't, it was like, oh, I'm going to go up here and help her make a show for the other clientele to help her make more money. Does that make sense? So as I'm tipping at the stage, I'm performing with her. And sometimes we would go to the back room, but like, again, let her make some money. We'd go sit around on the couch, sit and talk. Sometimes if I was very well within my cups, we had a separate name for Sybil Joe when she was well in her cups. If I was drinking whiskey that night, I might sit the stripper down and say, let me show you how to give a lap dance.
Okay.
That's embarrassing. I'm glad I don't drink anymore. It doesn't age well. So yeah, I do question when I was in that milieu, did I go over other women's boundaries? And I always tried not to. I was always myself very aware of it. You know, if I was performing with another woman, I wouldn't actually touch her in sensitive ways. I would do a performance to make it look like that as best I could. But just because we block it out of our minds while it's happening doesn't mean there's not harm being done. And that's definitely, I was thinking about it as we were getting ready for this live stream. You know, I'm glad you asked that question, because that was kind of ruminating in my mind. Like, if I get really honest with myself and I sit and think about it, how it's a bad culture. And when you're participating in a bad culture, people are going to get hurt.
And I had no idea before this live stream that this was part of your experience, and I appreciate the honesty and grappling with that. Because I mean, we've mentioned it elsewhere, and there's going to be entire episodes about this. This is an industry that does demand you almost to harm others. That makes you complicit, like a cult. And the other thing that came to my mind as you were talking is the reality of duos, or I guess even trios, where Andrea's talked about that, where you have to perform with another woman in front of the John, and you have to do sexual things to each other. And Andrea's talked about how traumatizing that was, because she couldn't dissociate quite as much, but she would see the other woman dissociate in front of her. And okay, that's some really heavy stuff. I don't know if this is the space to get into that, but what you were saying, like helping the stripper, for lack of a better term, make the show work. It had a little bit of a that's where my mind went hearing that, and it's like I'm you know, I have no direct experience, but I'm sure that when a duo is done, you try to cause as little discomfort or harm as possible, even though the men might want you to. So, and I've heard also that women often become friends. They do these duos together, and they're really, really tight knit, and they're really, really trying to protect each other. And they know who to do a duo with and whom not to do a duo with.
That was exactly what I was going to say. We would always try, when I was in an escort agency, you know, so we had kind of a little clique, and we would always try to do doubles, even though we would end up making less individually per hour. But like you said, that way we could look out for each other, we could protect each other. I would always try to take on the brunt of, you know, try to give her a break and take on the brunt of the physical. But what you just said about Andrea saying she could watch the other woman dissociate, I was the one that could dissociate really well. I could compartmentalize. It was all business. And yeah, that's exactly what I mean, is I don't know the harm that I caused, because I was dissociating so well and trying to be so protective of the women that I was around. I don't know what their experience of it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. And that bonding, I still have a few very close friends that have also gotten out, that we, exited together. Um, it's like a war bonding, really. Like those are
Yeah.
my comrades. I know those women would die for me, and vice versa. So, like, yeah, again, what you said about it being culty, I think that's brilliant, and I think that needs to be dissected a lot. Is the cult mentality and how it gets entrained. Daniela Mestinek, do you know her?
No.
She's the knitting cult lady on YouTube. I'm obsessed with her. I read her book Uncultured, and she just came out with a new one, The Culting of America. Um, she was in the Children of God cult, which was a really big fundamentalist um, pedophile cult. And then she was in the US military, and she noticed, oh, they're using the same mind control tricks in the military as in the cult. And she's so good at putting together these high control groups and how they work, I would love to have a chat with her one day on this subject, because I think that she could give us a lot of insight in how, and especially when you add sex to it, you can really, it's mind control. And yeah, that's why, as we're talking about these females, coming back to the topic at hand, I always have these ambivalent feelings when talking about women around the industry. It needs to be talked about. It needs to be, dissected and understood. But I also have a defensiveness, and there's so much nuance to a woman's position. Again, as she gets closer and closer to this horror category, and even, and then there's the, talking about oh, what was her name? Gabrielle Union. Like you said, women taking on the role that is a traditional role that men take, being able to be powerful and carefree and fully dressed and the one throwing around the money. That's also, like, again, this proximity to the whore category and trying to take on the male role in that.
Yeah.
But actually, we never can. So even with the women who are playing that role with the prostituted women, it's not, I don't know, it's not the same. I don't know where I'm going with this.
You're not
You
going
can
to
take
be
over.
able to, you're not going to be, might give you a bit of social clout. We'll get even more into that, how people are definitely forming, elite celebrities are forming these social networks that function through strip clubs. So not that there are no advantages to women. We'll also talk about how women have bought and invested in strip clubs. But you are not going to be able to transfer the power that you have over the woman dancing at the pole to your husband, to your boyfriend, to somebody more powerful in the industry. Like that's that you're still going to be in the same role then. And I guess you could argue that even some men who go to strip clubs are less powerful than their male boss. But I mean, I'm talking specifically about female-male relationships. You don't actually become a powerful man just by mimicking some of their behavior. If you're a woman, you're still going to be a woman in this world.
And the men around you don't see you as a peer. Like, again, the closer you get to that line, it's almost like you're trying to be the John, but you're still getting closer and closer to being the whore to the men.
Yeah.
They're never going to, that category isn't open to women.
Or if so, then only a very teeny, tiny, if at all. Should I give the next example? Because there's still a number of them. So the next one is definitely about a woman who, as far as we know, did become predatory. She denies it. We'll get into that. So turns out people might know Lizo. It's also one of the most famous sort of pop musicians from the last couple of years. She went to a strip club during the pandemic with several other celebrities. That was a big scandal, not really because it was a strip club, but because famous rich people got to continue to party during the pandemic. And I doubt they ever stopped, honestly. But there was a couple other people there. One of them was Lil Nas X, who is a gay man. We haven't even gotten really into how most of these women are straight. So Lil Nas X is not interested in women. Most of these women we're discussing are not gay or bi. So like we said, it's just not necessarily about sexual gratification. Another one that was there at that Lizo's party was Dua Lipa, who also threw money at women, put money in their underwear. And there was a whole hashtag that trended for a while over this. Again, I think mostly due to the COVID aspect. The fact that it was a strip club just kind of was an extra gut punch for people. But I don't think it was really an explicit objection to strip clubs on principle. And Dua Lipa defended doing that. And she said, you don't get to pick and choose when you support women. We have to support sex workers and believe that it is their choice and their right. That's minimal paraphrasing of what she said. I actually wanted to talk about Lizo, but maybe we want to spend a minute on Dua Lipa.
It's not in the outline, so I don't know who that is.
Oh, that's another pop star. Apologies. But just this is adding this whole aspect that, you know, you're supporting women. You're not just supporting the individual woman by giving her money. You are supporting sex workers, in quotation marks. In general, you are supporting women in their choices and their rights. So now going to the strip club is feminism.
Right. And that's just the script, right? That's she didn't have a thought in her head when she said that. That's the rah sex work is work script. The mantra that I don't know. I don't think it really has anything to do with anything.
I mean, she
I don't
gets
think it has to do with
virtue
what
signal.
she's actually doing. Yeah.
She gets the virtue signal after objectifying women and breaking COVID rules while everyone else was like barely surviving. And that's feminism. Amazing. Like that's a reversal.
Well, and it always this is kind of the constant feminist struggle, right? Is the difference between liberation for women as a group versus benefit for individual women. She's getting social benefit from this. So to her, it feels like feminism because it's making her life better for whatever reason. And that's where her thoughts on it stop. And that's on the left, on the right, in the US, around the
Radical
world.
thought. If I was a multimillionaire, I would set up a fund so that women don't have to go to illegal underground strip clubs or whatever the hell and strip at any time, but especially during a pandemic. You can just give people money.
But that wouldn't get you anything.
I mean, you can brag about that if you want to brag.
Nobody, yeah, that won't get you social clout.
It's not as cool, girl, as if
the same reason that we can't get funding.
Yeah. But back to Lizo, who's actually the main person I wanted to talk about, but there's so many, that's why I keep getting sidetracked. So Lizo is just not just a frequenter of strip clubs. There is allegations against her that she made women who worked for her backup dancers, perform sex acts in a burlesque, not a strip club. So 3 backup dancers by the names Crystal Williams, Ariana Davis, and Noelle Rodriguez filed a lawsuit in 2023 that, as far as I know, is still ongoing. Somebody correct me if that's not right, but I checked 10 minutes before the stream. It was ongoing, according to one source. They allege a hostile work environment, including various types of discrimination and harassment by people working for Lizo, including her dance captain, Shirlene Quigley, who kept talking about her masturbation habits and sexual fantasies in a very explicit way. But they also alleged against Lizo herself. And the one concrete event that has been reported about a lot is they went to Amsterdam. This is where I should say, I know some people who've done that. You're in Amsterdam, you go to a sex show. That's what Amsterdam's infamous for. They went to a strip club called Bananenba. And the the dancers, the backup dancers, alleged they were forced to go. They were not allowed to back out. This is forced socializing with the boss on another level. Men do that to each other with brothels, by the way, but I guess women are doing it to each other in some way now too. At that club, Lizo allegedly invited cast members, sorry, there was a reality show connected to being a backup dancer. So the women allege they were made to take turns touching the nude performers, catching dildos launched from the performers' vaginas, and eating bananas protruding from performers' vaginas. One woman alleges she was pushed to touch the breasts of one of the women at the club, despite expressing explicit discomfort. And she acquiesced because like the whole group was chanting for her to do it. And Lizo denies all these allegations. They're in an ongoing lawsuit. She says that's all like salacious gossip, not true. She's very open about her sexuality, but that doesn't mean she does things like that to people. But she's since been sued by more people. And I am inclined to believe this story, even though I guess we technically can't prove it. So
this, I love the order that you put these in. And like I said, the being able to compare and contrast the different levels. And this is what I was talking about earlier about strip clubs being this kind of liminal space where you can have your foot on both sides, and you can, and some women can only want to put their toes in, like Chappell Roan. And I from what that I've read, it doesn't look like Chappell Roan necessarily knows what goes on in those places. You know, there's kind of a curated experience for her.
Yeah.
Whereas the deeper in you go, the more you learn. So Lizo knows what happens in these places and how far it can go. And it's just interesting, thinking of it as like the depth, putting your toes in and then going on the deep end. At a certain point, to a certain extent, it's like a frog in boiling water, right? Like you kind of get acclimated to it. But at a certain point as a woman, like, you know what's going on and you have a crossroads. Do I renounce this or do I accept this? And once you accept it, it's kind of, you're in it, you're bought in, and anything goes. And where am I going with that?
I think we talked about it in other times. So like men do this to each other. This is a price of entry. You want to be a successful pop star's backup dancer, you go into the strip club. This is the price you pay. You back out, you suffer the consequences. Good luck with a lawsuit. Like it, I'm sure there's so much that we don't even know about with where these things happen. This is just, we expect this of men, but women are catching up. At least some elite women are catching up with that kind of behavior. I don't know if that's connected to what you were trying to say.
No, yeah, it is. And again, that plausible deniability. So Lizo can say, I'm sex positive. I love having, these experiences with the people around me, and it's all totally consensual. And this is exactly what the men say, right? Oh, it's just a little peep show and it's artistic. And where am I going with this? This analogy of like getting deeper and deeper in and knowing what actually goes on. It's almost like the what we're willing to know is getting further towards the deep end. So the women who don't want to know will stay on the shallow end and will block out any information that comes from the deep end. They're like, that's irrelevant. That's underground. That doesn't really happen in my world. But culturally, are we shifting further and further into the deep of what is acceptable I don't know. Can you go somewhere with that?
Even necessary.
Am I making sense?
Beatrix was mentioning Ariel Levy's book "Female Chauvinist Pigs," which we were talking about before the live
Yep.
stream. Which as far it's been a minute
It's
since
been
I read
years
it.
since I read it.
Yeah, it's like I remember this was it was about it mentioned so many examples, but it included this is women getting into ranch culture, but ultimately ending up mostly as victims. So it was Girls Gone Wild, I think, was this kind of porn series that they would go to, or I don't know if some of these were staged, but the producers would go to parties, talk to women who were usually presumably drunk, possibly high, and then see how far they could go. This connects to what happened with Lizzo. They were chanting, "Come on, do it! Take your shirt off! Take your shirt off!" Like in case of Lizzo, that was even it was even more like you're actually supposed to interact with somebody sexually in front of others. But the Girls Gone Wild porn pimps were doing this to women and then publishing those as pornography. And the idea was they have a easier time. Makes complete sense. Easier time convincing women to do that if it's considered a mark of freedom to let yourself be filmed topless. And if there's something thrilling and exciting that you can't quite access if you're not willing to do something like that. And not to shame the women who did it, because again, like and not that I don't want a world where women could party topless and be safe and respected. I will say this several times probably. But in this world, that is not safe enough. A freaking porn producer comes around the corner to capture that or make you do that. And what people like Lizo are doing is not a totally different planet. It's like if you are a modern, successful woman who loves herself, you are willing to get really sexual with strangers really quick in front of your boss. Like what? I'm getting a little lost there too because this is still bizarre to me, and
it's kind of hard to organize the exactly what's going on here in the power play. Like, why is this considered a socially powerful position to be in? And again, like the idea of like getting closer and closer to the knowledge of what men do to whores, to put it like, again, I know that's a vulgar way to put it, but it is a vulgar thing, and that's why I express it that way, because that is how they express it. And there's there's a power in knowledge, right? And so, like, again, there are the women who refuse to know about this world of male socialization, male culture, and then there are the women who get closer and closer to knowing. And there are those like you and I who want to know about it so we can fight it. But if you want to know about it so you can navigate it and move up in ranks through it,
yeah,
there is a certain kind of power, I think, that comes from women who are willing to, because that is the only way to get into the male social sphere. This is why they have business meetings at strip clubs or at host clubs in Japan, like you said, all over the world. This is part of the male economy. And so for a woman to understand that and then to signal to the men around her that she understands it and she's okay with it and she's with them, and it gives some kind of social, very, very, very tenuous social mobility. It feels like social mobility. But what I think a lot of us don't understand, I did not understand when I was in that milieu, is the guys are playing us. They're really playing in our faces. Like, we think that we're navigating that social sphere through our knowledge and us being okay with it, but they know that what we're being okay with is being degraded and disrespected as a sex class.
yeah.
And so they look at us as
Or
class.
do it to her, not me. This might be an example of that. And I also don't want to discount. I don't want to take, we're not denying Lizzo's responsibility for her actions. And one thing we talk about all the time, why do men exercise their sexual power over women? There is a thrill in that power. And I would not put it past women who've done things like we've talked about with Lizzo, that they too get a thrill of, see what I can make him do? And I think this connects back to how the dancer culturally is so degraded. When dance is beautiful and life affirming and versatile and an art and athleticism in one. So this is how I view dance. But in this culture, unfortunately, dance. I mean, I really love. Was it? Derek Jensen talking about the toxic mimic. So stripping is like a toxic mimic of dance,
Yes.
and the backup dancers of Lizzo or insert almost any pop star inhabit this space where, okay, this is definitely still athletic and complicated, and two left foot me could not replicate it, but they are frequently put in barely any clothes. They are frequently told to gyrate or touch each other on a pop music performance concert stage. And I would not be surprised if people like Lizzo view their backup dancers in part as lesser because of the type of dance that is normalized. Like we do this to cheerleaders. Cheerleaders are a potent example. That is hard. That takes years of training. That is clearly athleticism and art, but they are also clearly frequently objectified, put in very specific outfits. I'm always thinking about American Beauty, and how adult men look at underage girls, because often it's girls. But even adult women, how many scandals have we had of cheerleaders and like sports teams and managers and the men in that orbit going after them? I would not be surprised if something that's going on with Lizzo and her dancers, if some of that disrespect that men have heaped on women after women do what they want, which is sexualized dancing, if some of that has bled into Lizzo's interactions with her backup dancers. That's my theory.
Yeah, of course. Of course. And yeah, absolutely. What you're saying about that thrill of the power. I tend to err on the side of trying to look at the social pressures that are pushing these dynamics, but I have also known many abusive women. Oh, shush,
Yeah,
not right now.
exactly.
I'm sorry, my dog. Baby, it's okay. It's just the neighbors. I'm gonna have to go let her out. I'm sorry.
No worries.
She won't stop until I let her out. The neighbors are coming by. She wants to say hi.
Understandably. I guess if we have a small moment, I will just give a dishonorable mention to Kristen Stewart, who was discovered sneaking into a Hooters, and a fan recognized her. And then, the whole staff took photos. Unlike most of these other women, which we've talked about are straight, I'm pretty sure Kristen Stewart is bisexual. Somebody correct me if that's not true. But yeah, that's a brief dishonorable mention. Might not be quite as egregious as a strip club, but like Hooters should not exist in this day and age. Like there shouldn't be a Hooters. I think most people might have heard that's a type of restaurant. I think they jokingly say breastaurant, where women have to wear especially low-cut tops and short skirts. And I've heard of I don't know if that's Hooters or another chain, where they actually have a mirror on the floor so that you can look under women's skirts. So that is clearly on the continuum of sexual exploitation, even if it might be like the mildest end. Why does that stuff exist? And why would Kristen Stewart or anyone else who has any respect for themselves or women want to participate? Beatrix is asking about our discussion with Derek Jensen. Yeah, we keep referencing it and it's not out yet. It's in our production pipeline. We had an incredible discussion. I've sent it to the editor. It's in the pipeline. I think it's this. We've got another episode. The next one that's coming out is about the Pellico case. And after that is the Derek Jensen conversation about how we are destroying the planet and destroying women in really interconnected ways. So that's...
Yeah. And I had to step away, but I think you were still talking about the concept of the toxic mimic that you just brought up with Derek Jensen.
we can definitely go there again. Yeah.
yeah, that concept, when I first heard him talk about that, it made so many things make so much more sense. And we've talked a lot about trauma training, and I think that the key to controlling other people's behavior has to do with finding out our biological triggers and patterns, and then finding something that keys into that. And that's what I was saying earlier about strip clubs being, like, it's natural for young people to want to go out and drink or lose inhibitions in whatever way: music, dance, sex. That's part of the human, how humans have always interacted with celebrations and festivals, um and I think that's why it's such a powerful um place. It's funny, with all of the different horrible things that we know that goes on in the sexual abuse industry. In a way, I feel like strip clubs are, yeah, I think I said earlier, load bearing structure. Like, we think of it as such a small, like, harmless area of the sex abuse industry, but I think it's actually, um uh, the powerhouse. I think there's a lot of, um almost like like everything else flows out of that because of this cultural, the way that it sucks in the culture.
It eases you into it. We know
Yeah,
that any individual abuser eases their victim into it by lower level transgressions. First, it's just
exactly.
verbal. Then it's having full on conversations with the victim that are inappropriate, like not a comment here or there, a look here or there. Then it's touching. And then you can imagine where it spirals from that. And the strip club is easing all of us into abusive women. And yeah, that's very simple, actually. So, and like I said, I didn't have a lot of time to go into the research. So we might have to do another one on the strip club research literature, which was annoying to me because they all had these like funny titles. Like, you think the researchers had fun researching, I can just imagine the anthropologist or whoever sitting in the strip club going, hey, I love my job.
Hmm.
But I'm just going to cite one statistic. So according to this one study, 4% of US women have gone to a strip club in their lifetime. That doesn't mean they enjoyed it, doesn't mean they touched somebody, doesn't mean they went more than once. We don't quite know. But that was still, I don't know, we were still a bit like, well, but for men, by the way, it's over 20%. That might, that's not surprising. But for women, it's 4, and it's some sources have claimed it's rising. So for the last 25 years or so, that it's on the rise, which wouldn't surprise because the celebrities are kind of, telling us that this is how to, if you want to signal status and sex positivity, that's what you should be doing. Any more thoughts before I move on?
Yeah. Do you know where was that study? Where does that cover? Was that a US or?
I'm pretty sure that was US, but I would now have to like log into my university account, then the PDF something. I don't have the original source quite in front of me, but I will look that up and put it in the description for everybody.
It's funny, when you sent me that number, my first reaction was, oh, that feels really high. Like, I was shocked that that many women went to strip clubs, and then I sat and thought about it, and I was like, actually, no. I kind of swung in the opposite direction. I was like, I'm actually surprised it's not higher. But like you said, I think that we're going in that direction, and I think that those numbers will increase before they decrease again.
Yeah. So I have a few examples here, which actually I'm considering skipping. This is about actresses who go to strip clubs for research from movies. This is something I would want to revisit. We are launching a movie club, so to speak. We will be watching some movies connected to sexual exploitation, starting with Pretty Woman. Hustlers is one of the movies on the list. I don't know if people know the movie Hustlers, which is all about women surviving the strip club scene, and like these mega celebrities are playing the dancers, and they end up robbing men. I think that's the rough outline, and I am not sure. I think that's going to be a movie that's as confused as our culture as to what strip clubs mean. And
In the movie, the characters robbed the men, not the act.
yes, no,
It'd be cooler if the
no,
actresses did it.
no. Oh, that no. But they did go into strip clubs to talk to women, and they one of them, Constance Wu, did do a day shift, and talked about earning $600. But I don't have very detailed information on that. I got another example. This is when the cast of Bridesmaids, which is some kind of comedy with Kristen Wiig, Rebel Wilson, Maya Rudolph, Melissa McCarthy. Kristen Wiig invited the other actresses to a male strip club because, oh yeah, I mean, that's one thing maybe we should briefly mention, which is, what's the stag nights, dough nights? Is the right term, dough night? No.
Oh, I've never heard that, but it makes sense. Yeah.
So we know that
Stag
stag nights take place at brothels and strip clubs. Now, dough nights are increasingly being normalized at strip clubs. Male and female dancers, I guess. And sorry, Beatrix, you can't join the movie club other than joining the live streams that we do to discuss the movies. You'll have to independently watch the movie and then come talk to us in the comments. I know the club sounds like we could actually like meet up online to watch it. Oh, if we had the infrastructure, I'd love to do that.
Oh, that would be fun.
Maybe
Mystery
I'll
Science Theater 3000 it.
Maybe I'll look into that if that's possible. But I don't think we can just show you guys movies. That would be copyright violation. So we're all going to have to independently watch it and then come together to talk about it. But that's happening. So just subscribe to us on any platform you like listening and watching, and those will be coming out. In fact, this weekend, Sabrina and I are watching Pretty Woman, and then we're going to get ready to do a stream maybe in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something. So that's in the works.
I hope I can make that one. I need to rewatch it. And I think I mentioned to you, I'm debating my hometown, small, historically very conservative small town theater is putting on a production of Pretty Woman. And I'm having fantasies of writing my city council. like, I am outraged. And then part of me wants to go see it so that I can be more outraged, even though I don't want to give them money for it.
Yeah, I know. When events like that happen in my city, I'm like, should I protest? Should I go and write an angry review? Or where's my energy best spent? So,
but again, the normalization.
That movie's 35
right
years old. Oh, sorry. That movie, somebody's saying that movie's 35 years old. Yes, it is. But they have put it on a million stages. They made a musical. It is still famous. Everybody knows Pretty Woman. People who have not seen Pretty Woman know Pretty Woman. Women in the industry, I've heard from some women who've been in the exploitation industry who talked about that movie influencing them. That movie remains relevant. We're not out of the woods. This is the most important movie made on this topic. Not because it's the best movie or the more realistic. It's none of that. But it's the most culturally influential. The shadow reaches to this day. Yeah, it's referenced all the time.
It lays out the blueprint for the mythology.
Yeah. Okay, but back to women in strip clubs. Yeah, we talked about this could be a power trip for women. This could be a money opportunity for women. So I got one example for us, which is Shanti Brodus. I might be mispronouncing that, who also goes by the name Boss Lady. She is Snoop Dogg's wife, has been since 1997, is also his manager and business partner. And we know men in the hip hop industry do tend to frequent strip clubs to host parties, film music videos, or they just straight up perform there as a concert venue. And Snoop Dogg has openly talked about spending time in them. This was one of the reasons their relationship got strained, which is sad irony.
Mm.
And Snoop Dogg has recruited backup dancers from strip clubs, and they're called Snoop's Angels. I guess we're technically not here to talk about him, but yeah, at some point we should. Yeah, this lifestyle of his almost made them divorce in 2004, but they reconciled in 2008. They're still together. Shanti Brodus has a company called Boss Lady Entertainment, and that company owns a strip club called the Players Club. is located in Los Angeles, and they did a big opening event full of celebrities. And Snoop Dogg auditioned the dancers, and he socializes there. And people who associate with him talk about how this is kind of the venue. If you want to get into a circle, you go to that place, and you got to, even if that's your first time, you got to participate in throwing money at women. And yeah, so I just briefly want to emphasize, just like any other pimp, there are also women who just want to make money, and they buy strip clubs to make money. And men are probably involved somewhere. Like women rarely do these businesses without the involvement of men, but that does not discount Shanti Brodus's responsibility. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, say.
Somebody's mentioning the movie The Players Club, 1998. That movie is on our list. That list has like 50 movies on it, but that's about the hip hop and the strip club industry's convergence. So we should probably watch that sometime. I think it's directed by Ice Cube, of all people.
Oh, I lost what I was about to say. What you're saying is a great example too of what we were saying about women using this industry to get closer to the top, further up the power hierarchy, and thinking that it's not going to turn around and bite them. Frankly, I mean, she knew who she married, right? But in the end, it sounds like if it was causing problems in their marriage, I don't want to speculate, but I will speculate, he was playing in her face. He was treating her like a clown, because no matter how much of a boss lady you are, like, women don't seem to understand that for the men, like, you just look dumb by accepting this behavior.
But at least now she makes money. So is she a winner?
Yeah.
Is she? And then our second to final category of people that I want to talk about are former dancers, again, for lack of a better term, women formerly exploited at strip clubs who now are patrons of them. And there's a lot of examples. I just got a couple. I think the most famous one is Cardi B. She is one of the biggest hip hop artists out there right now. She began stripping at 19 after being fired from a supermarket job. She also has talked about being in an abusive relationship that included physical violence at the time, and she desperately needed money to pay rent and leave that abuser. And during that time, she at some point managed to get into rapping, and she's a kind of a social media genius who spent a lot of time on social media talking about her life and using a lot of humor. People really loved it, and that turned them into her music, which good for her, really, honestly. She used her talents to get out. And she controversially has talked about men trying to get her into prostitution. So full on that full on end of sexual exploitation. And she turned it around on them by kind of promising, yeah, I'll go to the hotel with you. And then she would drug them and rob them. And she's talked about that quite openly. And maybe I can just read out briefly her statement of hers in regards to that.
Yes, please.
So she said, so I'm seeing on social media that an Instagram live I did 3 years ago has popped back up. A live where I talked about things I had to do in my past, right or wrong, that I felt I needed to do to make a living. I never claimed to be perfect or come from a perfect world with a perfect past. I always speak my truth. I always own my shit. I'm a part of a hip hop culture where you can talk about where you come from, talk about the wrong thing you had to do to get to where you are. There are rappers that glorify murder, violence, drugs, and robbing. Crimes they feel they had to do to survive. I never glorified those things I brought up in that live. I never even put those things in my music because I'm not proud of it and I feel a responsibility not to glorify it. I made the choices that I did at the time because I had very limited options. I was blessed to have been able to rise from that, but so many women have not. Whether or not they were poor choices at the time, I did what I had to do to survive.
Yeah. She's so real for that. That's I don't listen to her music. I really a pop culture idiot, but everything that I've seen when I think she was going through a trial, something about an assault or a fight between her and somebody, and all the little clips that I saw from that trial, I was like, oh, she is so smart. She is.
She was acquitted, by the way.
Oh, good for her. I
I'm
was on
pretty
her
sure she
side.
was.
Oh my gosh, and I know she needed to make that public apology, and she needed to mea culpa, and I'm not proud of it and all that, but honestly, like, she's proud of it. I'm proud of it for her. Like, anybody who knows these guys, me and my friends used to joke and fantasize about doing things like that, but we were too scared of jail. Um, but you
Yeah.
know, they take so much from you that that rage is you want to take something back. So I'm good on her.
Yeah. We have a whole episode about women fighting men's violence with violence. So anyone who
Yeah.
missed that, please do consider going back. We didn't mention Cardi B there, but we have a bunch of other examples. That includes women who've gone so far as to murder their Johns in self-defense and prophylactically, so they can't hurt her or anyone else going forward in the case of Eileen Wernas. So we cover that with a lot more depth over there. And somebody's mentioning that they knew of Cardi B before she got famous, and the reason she began stripping, or one of the reasons, is because the owner of the bodega she worked at told her she wasn't going to make money working there, but that she had a great body, so she might as well strip.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep. That's a lot of our stories. And it's a shame that, you know, again, she got into it at 19 and then immediately rolled right into celebrity and the music culture, and those bleed into each other. Like, of course, she's not going to have the perspective on it from the outside. She's going to have the perspective of, this got me through, this got me out of something worse. So it absolutely makes sense that she would frame it that way, but it's a shame. I think she might think of it differently years on.
and maybe I should say, so Cardi B did say in her quote that she doesn't glorify. I guess it's not. I don't know if she's technically talking about stripping or she's talking about robbing men, but she definitely does frequently visit strip clubs, and she hosts events and performances at clubs. And she said she does that because she enjoys the environment and she wants to support the women. I think that connects back to what you were talking about. So she's out of the life, but she's still connected to it. It has advantages, and she's making that work in her mind. And strip clubs also appear in her music. Do appear. Oh, well, I guess there's the answer. They do appear in her music videos, her lyrics, her stage performances. And she's also talked a lot about how strip clubs practice colorism. So that's, treating
Mhm.
darker skinned dancers worse, which I no doubt
Oh
is
yeah,
totally true, might bar entry to Black DJs or patrons, for lack of a better term, bartenders. And
absolutely.
that is racism. There's no question. But it still made me think about how we have brothels in Germany who also do that. And when it comes to the men getting in, I'm glad for every man who's not allowed to enter the brothel. This is where I'm like, yeah, but the world is not better if more darker skinned men are allowed to go to brothels. Like, it's not anti-racism to advocate for, it's one thing to not give people jobs. It's another to not let people participate in exploitation in that particular location. That's where I'm like, I'm not going to throw my weight behind getting. In Germany, it's
Yeah.
mostly Arab men who get barred by security from entering brothels, and I'm not going to be advocating to get them inside. So I don't know if this is me going off the
Yeah.
trail here, but
We
that
definitely need to do some series of episodes about race in the industry. There's so much to go into that I don't even think that we could scratch the surface here. Um,
yeah, yeah. Um, There is another example. It's two more before we get to Lily Ellen, which is the dark heart of this whole thing, where she actually became a John. So another example is Black China. She's another pretty famous hip hop artist, former dancer at the King of Diamonds in Miami. She supported herself barely out of high school and through university. And that particular club is deeply connected to hip hop culture, according to my brief research. And she developed a reputation among club patrons and visiting rappers. And I don't quite know what that means. Again, it could be like with Cardi B, it could be being very funny, being very sociable, but we have to consider that it may have included being especially objectified and possibly sexually exploited. This is slightly speculative, but again, this is the kind of space we're talking about. And she reported, she became a popular dancer with all that would entail. And she ended up touring as, again, backup dancer with hip hop artists, and she hung out with athletes, and she was a so-called video vixen. This is where I, learned that term. And she got into modeling, and now that she's kind of made it, she still, like Cardi B, goes back. She hosts events because she draws crowds. It's industry networking, and she stays connected with the people from that world. And she's been there with her husband or ex-husband. I'm not sure. She dated Robert Kardashian. Not that I really know who that is. And again, I was nonetheless disturbed when I saw the actual photos of what she was doing with the women, like again, them simulating sex acts and her. But I guess we've gone over that. I don't know if you have any fresh thoughts regarding Black China specifically.
No, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. Yeah, Robert Kardashian, he was one of the OJ Simpsons. That's what I thought. I just had to Google. He was one of OJ Simpson's attorneys.
Oh, I think that's the dad. I think that's
I
Robert
thought you said that's who she was
Jr.
married to. Oh,
Am I mixing
see.
these guys? So I think
I don't know any of
the
these
dad
people.
so the most famous Kardashians are like this group of sisters. And I think their dad was
that's not who Black China was married to.
I think she's the son of that guy.
That's the son. Gotcha. Now, thank you for catching me up.
It's a small world, the celebrity world.
A family of that normalized that culture, that exploitation culture. Yeah, just again, it sounds like that muddy area between, these are my people. This is the culture where I hang out. The women who work here are the women that I want to be, joking around with and doing stuff with. And there's an element of how it bleeds into, we think that the sex abuse industry is one thing and our daily lives are another thing, but it bleeds into all of the culture. When you're enmeshed in it, it has an internal logic, that does make sense.
And just to say, I can sympathize with somebody saying, like, should I be going to the opera with like the art academy graduates? That's not my people. Other people in the music industry, that's not my people. Like, and then it's like a really sad. There's real value in going back to your roots and supporting the people who were there for you in your hard times. And this is, again, like a twisted version of that. It's like, I'm even going to say it's well-intentioned, at least some of the time. It's too bad that she can't. Why not start a scholarship? Be like, you were dancing because you couldn't support yourself in university. Guess what? Me too. Here's your scholarship. Let me hand them out at strip clubs. Oh, I guess the owners would intervene. But I don't know. Go back into the community where they recruit the young women to the strip clubs. Give them a scholarship. And maybe some of these women do that kind of charity, and I'm just not aware. But this is what you would hope would be like going back to the roots and supporting your people. This is you
But
can
that's
do
like that
this in that way.
crossroads I was talking about, like the more women learn, and learning the information itself is traumatizing, right? So as you learn piece by piece what is actually going on, you have to make this decision about, is this okay or is this not okay? And if you decide it is okay, that forms the groundwork for all the other decisions that you're making. You know, that it's this kind of foundational worldview that is really hard to snap out of once you're in it.
I mean, you're gonna have to face your own trauma. Then you're gonna have to face
Yeah.
how you might have hurt somebody else. Then you're gonna have to face that your partner, maybe you've gone to the strip club with your partner. What has he been exposed to in his life, aside from probably a lot of porn? What have those interactions done with him? Your son. I'd not be surprised if some of those women end up going to strip club with their sons, or being fine with their strip clubs going to their sons going to the strip clubs, and then unspooling from all of that. And then, can you still be in your community if you see the harm of the community? Can you?
Exactly.
I know a lot of women who are exited who do some kind of social work and some kind of, they do go there, they do talk to the women, they do connect. Like Andrea does that. I know a lot of women who do. But those women can start mistrusting you because now you're speaking out against the industry, and now they feel like you're an enemy to their survival and their income. That happens, and that's painful, and that can break up relationships with women still in the industry. Like I do know most women I know find it hard to stay friends with someone currently active.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if that can be generalized, but that's what I'm told.
Again, going back to Derek Jensen, there's Derek Jensen quote for everything. Or I actually think it's him quoting someone else, but if you get your food from the grocery store, you're going to defend the grocery store with your life. If you get your food from the river and the forest, you're going to defend the river and the forest with your life. If you get your food from the strip club,
Yeah.
and you're embedded in it culturally, like you said, and this is that sweater string I'm always talking about. And I do think this is why this conversation, it just gets halted every time, generation after generation, because women do not want to pull that sweater string and
Yeah.
and experience everything unraveling.
Yeah. I have one last example before we go to the one female celebrity, John, that I could find. Do you feel ready to move on to that example?
Yeah.
That's Amber Rose. I only knew of Amber Rose in connection to Me Too. She was very vocal during that time. She's an organizer of slut walks. But when you go back into her history, now she's been through a lot. She started, how do I put this? So according to the internet, she started stripping at 15 to support her parents. That means she was commercially, sexually objectified, possibly exploited as a child. None of the articles that mention that she was 15 called it exploitation of a child. Not a single one.
She was a child stripper, right? Just like we have child prostitutes now. Yeah. Child sex workers, sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't want to take away their agency.
Yes.
As children.
And she said it was the best time of her life and gave her confidence. But she's also talked about, in understandably contradictory ways, how it was deeply unsafe. Women would get stalked. So after your shift ends in the early morning, men try to approach you before you can get into your car or whatever transportation you're using to get home, and they try to push you into prostitution. She also talked about omnipresence of drugs and that you can only get through this industry if you have a long-term plan to get out. You need a get-out plan. And just like the many other women we've mentioned, she became famous through hip-hop music, another so-called video vixen. She got into modeling. She dated Kanye West. That's not quite the right term because once I dug into that a little bit, she was looking to shoot a music video with him. He invited her to, I think, another continent, and he flew her there, only then to delay and turn out there was no music video. He wanted dates. That's how they started dating. She was very young at the time, at early 20s or something. And he was at least mentally abusive. I don't have all the details there. And when they broke up, he talked openly about how he had to take 30 showers because she was so dirty before he could get with Kim Kardashian, the woman that he had really wanted to be with the whole time.
I would like to interject. If a man is emotionally abusive, then he is sexually abusive, because engaging with a woman without care and love and attention is going to harm her, regardless of what physical acts they did in the bedroom and whether or not it was consensual. Again, all that Andrea Dworkin quote that I keep coming back to, all touch without love is violation. So we soften it a lot. There's what we can see, and then we're like, oh, but we don't know. We can't prove anything. No, I can prove that if he acts like he hates her, that's sexual. He's sexually abusing her.
And I want to devote a whole episode to Kanye. I think he has since opened a pornography production, or at least talked about it. There's so much there that I'm not privy to. Like, I'm barely privy to 10% of what goes on with Kanye West that's connected to violation, sexual abuse. I think most people talk about him because as like mentally unstable. Okay, that's something that we can get into then. But the way he treats women is kind of standard. It mirrors completely how P. Diddy got most of his girlfriends. The exact same tactic. Promising them a career and then offering your dick, to be frank.
And targeting young, vulnerable, pre-traumatized, groomed.
Yeah. And so in slightly optimistic terms, Amber Rose did manage to kind of have a career on her own. She was in reality television. She had a talk show, or I'm not sure. She wrote a book or two. And again, she was a vocal advocate during Me Too, talking about abuse. She is now on OnlyFans, and she promotes that and says it's much safer than stripping, which we'll definitely get into sometime, how dangerous OnlyFans is and how crime-filled and abuse-filled. But okay, that's her take. It feels safer to her than stripping. She owns a strip club now called Ace of Diamonds, and she goes there to celebrate various occasions that included a divorce party from her ex-husband and co-parent, Wiz Khalifa. Should also mention, in May 2024, Amber Rose suddenly announced that she supported Trump in the US presidential election. She posted photos with him and with Melania. She endorsed him publicly, and she spoke at the 2024 Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. So
this is a lot. She's all over the place. Oh, I mean, so the slut walks. That's essentially, that's like pushing back against sexual harassment and sexual violence by saying whatever we wear, and then wearing skimpy clothes, right? Is it?
Yeah, and she did those from like 2015 to 2019. Like that's activism she left behind. I don't think she was the founder, but she was a very vocal celebrity voice in pushing for that kind of activism. And to be clear, the message we totally agree with. I've said multiple times, I wish women could dance in bikinis and dance topless and be totally safe and respected. I'm not saying women should have to want to do that. I'm not saying I need to do that. I'm saying I wish for a world where they could have a space where everyone knows that's what's going to happen and they're cool with that and everyone's safe. But again, this is not that world. And as well-intentioned as the slut walks were they effective political action? That's hotly debated whether that works. To say, you call me a slut, guess what I am? And here's my breasts. I'm not ashamed. And you shouldn't be ashamed, but are you changing hearts and minds? Maybe not. So
Yeah, and such a common defense mechanism. That was absolutely that was my go-to. I I love to tell the story of the first time that I was quote unquote slut shamed. I was in like sixth grade, and a little boy called me a cherry flavored whore, and I didn't know what any of those words meant. And I don't think he did either. But I knew that it had something to do with sex, and he was trying to like sex shame me or something. And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm Peach."
mm,
Like I'm gonna own, and that as an 11-year-old, I already had that. Like, you can't shame me if I do what you say that I do without shame.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
But
yeah.
that's and because that's a child's reaction. I was thinking about this with what was the other Rowan? What's her name? Oh my gosh.
Chappell Roan.
Chappell Roan. Yeah. A lot of these responses are kind of very adolescent
Yeah.
takes. And that makes sense, especially as somebody who started being, I mean, trafficked at 15. Yeah, it's having to sexually please men to support your parents, that's child trafficking. And when it starts that young, yeah, this is a great example because like she's kind of bouncing all over the place, right? She knows what this industry is and she's trying to make it better, I guess, from the inside. And that's kind of what I thought when I was in it. And it sounds like she's still very much in it, but also as a pimp. And that happens a lot where women in the industry move up and get enough money together to be able to have a business. Um, and again, like not being able, is it a despair? Like this idea of, well, this is always going to be here. So reform is the only, harm reduction is the only, oh, it's
Yeah.
sad.
And sex work ideology tells you half the fight is won when you stop being ashamed. Now you just also need other people to stop shaming you. But half of it is won when you stop shaming yourself. And not that I don't want women to stop shaming themselves. I do. But that is unfortunately like 5% of the whole mission because you need to get men to stop doing that to women. And I think, I don't know if we mentioned this before on the show, but I think, I'm sure you agree, shaming women is the foundation of the industry. It does not work without it. Only when women as a whole, but then especially a subset in particular, is othered, can you do these things to them. Johns need to dehumanize exploited women.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they cannot. Otherwise, their empathy would turn on. They would go, "What am I doing? This is a person. They have their own boundaries and desires and whatnot, and I'm not it. I'm moving away." So he has to dehumanize her, and the best way he could do that is the whole culture goes with him. And if the whole culture saw women in prostitution as exactly as complex and regular people as anyone else, with yes, okay, we got diversity in the culture about how much sex people want to have and how adventurous, but nobody wants to have it with strangers multiple times a day, with random sexually entitled men who dictate to you what they're going to do to your body. No one's sexuality is like that. Only if we let go that idea, there would be no sex industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And like you say, it is inherently shameful to be the person who is harmed. That is, if everybody agrees that it's okay to hurt you, that means that your status in that society is the bottom.
we
And
talk
you
about
can't,
that with Derek Jensen.
without getting rid of, you have to get rid of the harm. You can't get rid of the stigma. And yet it's such a childish notion that if I just don't acknowledge the shame, if I don't wear the shame and I put it back on you and say, I don't think of myself that way. But then if everybody else thinks of you that way, and that's what I keep saying about like, if the men are still, they're treating you like a clown because the harm is still being done. You can't actually, shame is a social dynamic. It's not something that's inside of you that you can just decide, I'm not ashamed. You are shamed by the culture. They decide that you are shamed and then treat you a certain way based on that. And it's when that treatment, and everybody who has been touched by the sex abuse industry knows it. We've experienced, it doesn't matter how proud and confident I am, when someone looks up, a future employer looks up my background record and they see my prostitution arrest, that's going to affect my income. And it's going to push the women further and further out of the society, and that ostracization. This is how we create this class. It's a class of humans that is below everybody else. And until we get rid of it, we won't get rid of the stigma. It's crazy.
And if your prospective boss saw this on your resume and he was deep in sex work ideology, would he think you have, I don't know, customer service experience? You are probably good at navigating tricky situations. He's probably going to think that, again, you should be a waitress at a strip club, or you could be a backup. Like, what skills is that supposed to conjure up in people's minds? It's probably not going to be what some people in the movement who mean well but do it poorly want. Even in the sex work realm, you are still a professional sex object. You're still not a person. Even in that ideology, that is not, you cannot escape that. So we can revisit that another time, the attempt to make it labor and what that logically produces. Even if you managed to indoctrinate everybody that it is labor, the result would not be humanizing. It would just be a slightly different kind of dehumanization. And that's what we see in the countries where they try, like my country, Germany. Should we go to our final case? Because I know we've been talking an hour and 45 minutes, and I'm really grateful for all the people still active in the chat and the people still watching live. There's quite a number of you, so thank you. Should we go there?
Yeah, let's jump in. This is the most confusing.
Okay, here we go. Last one is Lily Allen. Lily Allen is a feminist. Well, I take that back. Sorry, female pop star from Britain. She's maybe the most famous British, like modern times, and she's kind of seen as making pro-feminist music. She did an album or a song a couple of years back about double standards and sexism, and she did really ironic objectification with music video backup dancers. But it was supposed to be ironic because she was saying this is not great for women, but I think she was making black women dance for her, if I'm not misremembering. So there was, again, a racial dynamic to it. But people largely view her as progressive. She's got her critics, but I guess the general public who doesn't pay a ton of attention. There is a song she wrote that's called "Fuck You." It's considered an anti-fascist protest song. I've heard it played at demonstrations in the UK. This is her image, broadly speaking. Some people don't like her for various reasons. I think that she's sometimes used a working class aesthetic, but she's not working class. That's the allegation, but I don't know much about that. So she had a 5-year marriage to some guy. I don't know who that was. They were still married, but the marriage was on the rocks. She was on tour. She said she had postnatal depression. She was away from her kids. And she was on this interview with some shock jock and shared that during that time, she hired sexually exploited women to access their bodies. And the shock jock gets all excited because he's a John. Men can say this on air. It doesn't do anything. But what she then said did shoot straight through the gutter press. She said she was lonely. She wanted company, but she didn't want a man there. But she didn't sit down and talk to women. She accessed their bodies, sexually speaking. And she did say it was cheating. She said that was her being a bad mom. She's not proud. She doesn't do it anymore, but she's not ashamed. And she put it in her memoir. And part of her talking to this shock jock and repeating the story several times was about selling her memoir. I think it was PR. That's my reading of it anyway. And she didn't at any point say, oh, what might have been like for the women? What might that have been like? What might prostitution be like in general for women? And the kicker is she's not even bisexual or gay. She's a straight woman who did like a very asshole male typical thing of, I don't feel good, I need validation, I need to feel alive. Let's hire somebody to access their body. And I mean, I lost all respect for her when I heard about this. I used to quite like her music. Have not listened to anything she's put out since. Cannot take her vaguely seriously as a political person. In her memoir, she talks about being a feminist. Like, I'm very, very done with her. And this is the one celebrity example I found, and it's a mess. It's a big mess. And she exploited women. Like, we have to call it what it is. She exploited women. Yeah.
I feel so salacious because my thoughts, my question, I want to, what was she doing with them? Like, I want to know the details, but of course I don't, people's privacy. I don't want people's privacy.
But how do you have gay sex when you're not gay and you don't have any gay experiences? Like, how do you, I guess that's a technical question that's valid.
Well, yeah, and prostitution sex is not the same. It's not female sexuality. It's not what would actually turn on any woman. So if you have somebody who's dissociated, I never had, okay, in my 15 years, I had one solo female client. I did have a lot of couples, but those dynamics were always like, it was for the guy and he wanted a third. And but with the one solo female, it was kind of an odd thing. I knew her through social group, and she knew what I did, and she asked me to she wanted to relive some kind of breastfeeding. She never got to breastfeed, and she wanted to. I don't. It was like a spiritual thing for her. It was a bad. I agreed to it, and I'm unhappy that I did, but it was very awkward, and it wasn't sexual. And so, yeah, I'm trying to picture what a straight woman who is emotionally needy and confused, and what she would do with a prostituted woman. If I could be a fly on that wall, I feel like I would love to analyze it.
And again, we can speculate, okay, maybe that wasn't sadistic BDSM torture the way that the most extreme male Johns do, but I think even if it's not physically traumatic, you have a situation where nobody really wants to have the sex. No party really wants that. That is, everyone is dissociated. Lily Allen is dissociated. And one thing it does remind me of is some male Johns who have talked about paying to access women they were not attracted to. It's not quite on the same level because they're still straight or bi, so they do like women in general. It's not quite the same level, but who are dissociated enough from themselves to go, I don't even like her body type. I don't even like her face. I don't even enjoy this, and who feel shitty afterwards, which I have no pity for, but they do. So there is a dissociative aspect from your own desires that even happens for the men who technically can pay for their desires' full fulfillment. So.
And in that situation, I was just thinking, with the men, there's a script. There's a kind of a role book that you read from, that you go through. Yes, you're dissociated, but what, go from this to this to this to this. But with a woman, what you said earlier about Andrea saying it was harder to dissociate with another woman there, because with the men, the role, this made up fantasy role that they have hired you to play. Whereas I feel like with another woman, you have to experience yourself as a person. And, in some ways that being more difficult, taking you out of that dissociated, compartmentalized state into, this is actually me with this woman, and experiencing this, even if it's, like you said, not sadistic, even if it's cuddling, it's cuddling where one person's desires matter and the other person is there to service, and experiencing that, the degradation of that as your real self, as opposed to being able to have that mask of the role that you have with the male Johns. I can see that as being that being really fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah. We have been going for nearly 2 hours. I feel like we could always talk more, but this might also we might also want to lead it to a close, just because. Speaking of athleticism, athleticism, doing these long live streams is a little,
Yeah.
I'm just starting to get tired now, and I don't want to end up saying something incoherent or, I don't know, just not fitting. And I feel like we've covered a huge amount of ground. Like
Yeah.
I feel like we
Yeah.
really went quite deep. I don't know if there's that much left to dig up that's directly connected to these cases. I could go 10 more places, but that's kind of opening a new chapter. What do you
No,
think?
I think you're right. I think this is a great place. And I feel like we've really kind of, back to my analogy, started at the shallow end and waded in and saw all of these different layers of women's relationship to the sex abuse industry. And like I said about that 4% of women who have gone to strip clubs, also women who watch pornography, these numbers are going up. And I think we'll see this go up and up as I want to emphasize what I've been saying about once the logic, the sex abuse industry logic kind of clicks into your mind and it becomes rational, then every decision that you make, it ripples out, and as the industry gets bigger, we're going to see more and more women who are kind of sucked into this whirlwind, whether as the object being sold, the consumable product, or as participants. The kind of cultish brainwashing and the activities that you get sucked into, whether it's in the BDSM community, like you said, dance, entertainment. We're getting to watch the effects on this massive global level, and I think it's going to get dark, much darker. And I hope that that women can be having this conversation. We always try to go back and end it on a light side. The thing about it getting darker is more and more women are seeing it, and more women are talking about it. And
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a backlash. I think there already is. And I'm so proud to be part of it.
But I do want to say one more thing. I don't know if we've emphasized this strongly yet. This does not diminish any of these women's responsibility for their actions where they did harm people, but they are also political pawns. If the sex work ideology, if that abuse industry can point, oh my God, women feel comfortable in strip clubs. Women, by the way, brothels in Germany, most of them I cannot access unless I'm a cleaner, cook, or exploited woman. Unless I'm staff, I cannot enter. But it would actually be politically smart for those brothels to court female clientele. So far, when they've tried a couple of times, they failed. But it would be politically smart, because if you can pretend it's not a sexed phenomenon, it's not mostly men on women, then somehow it becomes, it would still be abuse if it was 50-50, but it's more palatable. You can sell it to the public better. And that's why every woman who does go to a strip club, have her parties there, promote it, is a little cog in the machine of keeping that industry going, making it survive in a day and age where we are just starting to move on from a lot of toxic, terrible, abusive, violent ideas. Are just, we're so early in talking about equality of anyone with anyone. But on a positive note, I am immensely grateful to the feminist movement that I can make my own money, have my own bank account. I'm not forced to marry somebody. Not discounting those wins, but when it comes to sexuality specifically, we've barely moved the needle. Unfortunately, I think
You've gone backwards.
we've just enabled a subset of women to not have to sleep with men to survive, but so many still do. That's all okay, now I'm opening a big chapter, but yeah, this is part of keeping that whole system alive.
And until all women are free, no women are free. And that's what the women who are at that center of power, where maybe they don't have to sleep with men to survive, it's going to come down on them. I'm never happy to see it. I'm never happy to see another woman crushed by this, but they think they're safe. They're not.
No woman is. I mean, that's another. I mean, we can go into that another time. Just women bulldozed by the industry, even at a point where they already have their millions. Like Rihanna. Oh my God, I forgot Rihanna off the list. Rihanna goes to strip clubs too, by the way, and does those same things that we've talked about. Totally forgot to put her on the list. Rihanna famously, while already famous, was beaten up by Chris Brown. So we've often talked about how the weakest, socially speaking, the most vulnerable woman in society shows us where society's at. But the fact that the woman at the top of the food chain is not safe from the man in her bedroom, her home, also shows us where we're at. So,
yeah, we're a lot closer to one another than they'd like us to think.
So we could talk another 5 hours, but we're going to close it off here. Really, lots of thank you to the chat. There was so much coming in. I couldn't even include all your comments. I will read them again. People have suggested movies. People have suggested topics for live streams. People were, by the way, Sybil Joe, people were really kind when you talked about what you were doing when you were exploited in escorting and going to strip clubs. People were really kind and understanding about that. There was no like viciousness about that. And
guys, you're gonna make me cry.
The energy in the chat is really friendly and productive, and people are sparking their own ideas about what to talk about, write about. So
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
love these live chats so much. I always go back and read the YouTube comments, and what I love is the conversation rippling out. And you said at the beginning something about, we're not always completely up to date on, we're kind of skimming current events, but we haven't necessarily done a deep dive. But I really want the listeners, like, this is almost like a study group, share the articles, share the insights and the ideas. This isn't a one way. We're not just telling you something, like, this is a circle. And I'm so excited that people are responding to that. It means a lot to me.
It does to me as well. So just for people who don't know, who might be new, we do this every week, Thursdays at 6 p.m. UTC, Universal Time something. So wherever your time zone is, just look for 6 p.m. UTC. And I will be scheduling 1 or 2 days ahead. I do schedule them, and Facebook and YouTube will tell you, oh, upcoming live stream. They'll let you know. Sometimes we may move around. We have one co-host who might join us from Australia. Then we'll have to pick another time to make that work for her. Sometimes we'll move. But if you are just subscribed, you put on the notification bell in YouTube or whatever platform, it'll tell you every time we schedule something. You won't miss anything. And you can always listen to them once they're done. But if you want to talk to us, which is what we've been doing, and I really appreciate it, then just have a look for that, whatever notification system on whatever platform you're watching from. So yeah, thanks everyone, and hopefully read you next time.
Yes.